everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you all have a special someone that you're spending it with, even if it's a dog or Ben and Jerry's, or you know what, if you're single, just order like a beautiful meal on DoorDash, sit down, watch a movie. Like, who the hell cares? It's just another day. Rachel says the queen is never late. Everyone else is simply early. Well, you know what they call this in New Hampshire? They call it Libertarian Standard Time. And I used to be one of those people where I was really anal about being early to everything. Like, I would spend so much time just waiting because I was always early to everything. And then I started hanging out with the libertarians, and now I'm operating on Libertarian Standard Time schedule. It's always the fault of the libertarians. Well, guys, it has been a crazy week, hasn't it? It's only Tuesday, but I'm talking like the prior week leading up to this. It is absolute and total insanity. And I'm hoping that today we are going to get to focus in on some things that matter. Some things that matter, such as da da da. Preschool teacher attacks the idea of childhood innocence. What could possibly go wrong? I have been working on launching my Schools Exposed program, which you'll be able to join at schoolsexposed.com. I'm a little bit behind schedule, and I want to thank everyone who donated to the program because I am a little bit behind schedule. I'm about a month behind schedule right now. And part of it is I got a really bad cold or head cold or some sort of congestion or COVID. It really may have been COVID. Like, everyone was telling me, like, you have COVID. And then I never took a COVID test because I was stubborn. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, whatever. And so it was really hard for me to talk for like a couple of weeks, but I'm slowly regaining my ability to talk for extended periods of time. Which I have been using on streams. And I think my voice is starting to sound normal again. It was sounding congested for a while. So I have resumed recording the Schools Exposed stuff. And I do apologize for the delay. I know that crowdfunding folks, like, this is a crowdfunding initiative. And I know that, sometimes things just take a little bit longer than we would like them to. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because our topic today is specifically about what is going on in the schools. And I just wanted to remind everyone the Schools Exposed program is still happening. The Schools Exposed program is a program where I'm going to teach 10,000 parents, at least. That is my goal anyway. How to find out what the schools are teaching their kids through publicly available information. Oh, that's not what I want to have up. That's what I want to have up. And you can learn more about it by going to schoolsexposed.com right now. And what this is this is going to be an on-demand set of classes where I'm going to teach you how to investigate the schools using publicly available information, just like we have done on the show in any of our school investigation streams. And if you've never seen one of the school investigation streams, I would absolutely encourage you to go and check out the very helpful playlist that I have on the main channel. We are going to be resuming Schools Exposed streams after I get the program launched. And so I do want to teach. I want to teach parents how to do this because I think the more parents we have looking into what the schools are doing, the better off we're going to be in terms of making sure schools are held accountable. And like, what I found out in the creation of this program is that you can find almost everything online. You don't need to do FOIA requests. But the problem is that some of these school websites are so complicated and there's so much information. And if you don't know where to look or the right terms to use, or you don't know what the language means, it's going to be really hard for you. So I'm going to teach parents the basics of how to monitor what the schools are doing based entirely on public information. We're also going to talk about FOIA requests, public records requests. I do think that those are some of the most powerful tools that we have in our toolbox. And so that's all going to be an on-demand program that anyone can access. We're also going to be doing monthly live classes where we can kind of get together and troubleshoot and things like that. So if you want to learn more about Schools Exposed, head over to schoolsexposed.com. And if you go to join Schools Exposed, you're going to get taken over to my Indiegogo campaign. which is still live, is still up. You can still contribute to, because it is an in-demand fundraising right now, and that will allow you to get into the program when I do launch it, which I am targeting next week for the opening of the classroom, and then a live session after that. And hopefully recording goes well. It's going slow but sure right now. Like, I'm doing it in chunks because I want to make sure my voice can hold up. But I'm committed to getting this done and launched. And I really do thank everyone for their patience. This is going to be one of the most important things I ever do. And so I want to make sure I'm doing it right. And sometimes these things just take a little bit longer to do than you like them. But ultimately, I think it's going to come out really, really good. And I'm really looking forward to it. Jen, the time window of being a kid and naive or innocent to the world is so small, it should be preserved at all costs. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Jen. I think that this preschool teacher is nutty. And one of the things that they did to find this preschool teacher is, guess what they did? They looked at the social media. I actually do teach this in Schools Exposed because parents don't think about this. So many teachers are putting absolute insanity on social media. They're telling you what they're doing. They're telling you flat out what they're doing. And so if it's as simple as searching your teacher's social media to find out what's going on in the schools, that is one of the easiest things you can do. And so we're going to talk about this article. We're also going to talk about this article. This is from a young man named Eli, who I met virtually about a couple months, like several months ago. And then he ended up having a really bad experience at Vermont Academy. And he wrote a Substack about it. He's very brave. He's a young man. He's sharing his story. And I've been meaning, honestly, I owe a big apology to Eli because I have been meaning to cover Eli's story for like ever. And things just kept coming up and it kept getting pushed back. And so it was one of those things where it wasn't a time sensitive thing. So it was easy to kind of move off the docket. But Eli, I am sorry. I am sorry. But we're going to talk about his story today because it's crazy. And then Eli's going to come on the channel sometime in the next couple of weeks to have a chat with us. And I want to show you what's happening at Vermont Academy. We're also going to talk about Thomas Massie has reintroduced a bill to terminate the Department of Education. I think we know that this probably isn't going to go anywhere, but I like the gumption. I like that. And so that'll be really great. So those are some of the stories we're going to talk about today, guys. But I've got a couple quick announcements before we get started. Number one, I am doing a workshop this week. Oh, all about disc profiles and psychology. This is part of my Unwoke Your Work series. Let me just pop this in the chat. Oh, Naruto, did I miss a super chat? I apologize. Have you read the Laws Act yet? I have not read the Laws Act yet, Naruto, and thank you for pointing out the super chat. I think you sent it in before I was logged into StreamYard, and I just didn't see it yet. So I have not done that yet, but I will. God, I've been so busy today. I can't even tell you guys. Anyway, on Thursday, I am starting my Master Your Psychological Workshop series. This is a 2-part series. I am doing this as part of my Unwoke Your Work series, which are monthly workshops where I'm basically doing my corporate training stuff, my industrial organizational psychology stuff, and I'm putting it online and I'm bringing it to you directly. And I'm doing live workshops and I'm recording them and putting them on demand so that you will have resources to help with your personal development, your professional development that you know is not woke, that you know has no political agenda at all. And this is going to be one of my favorite workshops to do because I am an absolute disc profile nerd. I love the disc profile. I'm a master in the disc profile. Like literally, I'm a certified like master facilitator in the disc profile. And it's one of those things where if you understand the disc profile, you're going to be able to understand yourself. You're going to be able to understand everyone around you. If you guys know how I make the freakishly accurate predictions that I make about what's going to happen and how people are going to respond in any given situation, it's because of the disc profile, because I've been studying this stuff for a really long time. And so this workshop is going to be all about you and your specific psychological style. And what we're going to do is you are actually going to take, you're going to take a 20-page, well, you're going to get a 20-page profile. The assessment you're going to take is not 20 pages. And the assessment is going to take you about 10 to 15 minutes, and you're going to get a profile for how you show up in the world. And this information is so valuable. You can use it in the workplace, you can use it in your personal relationships. It is freakishly accurate. If you have taken a disc profile previously at your workplace, you don't have to use mine, but let me tell you what, I've tested a lot of disc profiles. Mine is the most accurate that I've seen out there. And so I would highly recommend it if you're going to go for it. But if you have another one, that's fine too, and we'll be able to work with that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you all about the disc profile, all about your disc style, and what that means for you and how you show up in the world. And we're going to ask your questions. And so on Thursday, we're going to have the first part of our workshop, which is going to be basically an overview of what the disc profile is. And then the following week on Thursday, we are going to have a live chat over Zoom where we're going to do exercises. It's going to be like a private kind of like practicum to apply the information we learned in the first workshop and all that good stuff. So if you want to learn more about that, head over to my Substack. And again, I've got a whole article on this, and I'll just pop it in the chat one more time just in case. And you can go find out how to sign up. You can sign up for an option of having your own disc profile, so you don't have to take mine, or you can sign up with an option of taking your own. And so that is available for you as well. And I'm really excited about it. Whole bunch of people have signed up already, and I think it's just going to be a great class. This is one of those things that it brings me so much joy to teach this stuff, because you see people have an aha moment when they first learn the disc profile, because it's like all of a sudden they understand why all those people who they didn't understand before, they understand why they do the crazy things that they're doing. So I hope you guys will consider joining me for this. And if you can't join on Thursday, that's cool, man. It's going to be on demand. So it will be available on demand when you're ready to join. All right, guys. The last thing I want to tell you before we get started, well, maybe a couple more things, is, of course, because I love you guys so much, on Valentine's Day, this is not the last stream I will be doing today. This is but the first stream I will be doing today. And you can join me for the second stream at 9:30 p.m. tonight, where Joshua will be joining us, and we will have nothing remotely controversial at 9:30 p.m. tonight on the channel. This is News and Psychics, which apparently, actually, side note, let me click off this for a second. We're going to talk about that in a second. But apparently, there is a cancel mob on Twitter that seems to be, well, perturbed that I have a psychic on my channel. Hi, stalkers. I know you're watching. I know you're hate watching right now. They always hate watch. They hate watch everything I do. But I actually find this pretty crazy, because Joshua's been on my channel almost every single week for 3 years. So guys, if you think you're going to make me embarrassed by having a psychic on my channel, guess what? I wouldn't have had him on my channel every single week for 3 straight years if I was embarrassed of having a psychic on my channel. Try better next time, haters. My God, I don't know why people are so obsessed with me. I really don't. But speaking of that, before we get into our stuff about the schools, I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to this. So I wanted, like, this is important, I think, not so much about me, but like, I want everyone to understand exactly how the woke mob works, because last week on my Substack and on Twitter, I came out in public support of Eliza Blue. I think that Eliza Blue told the truth. I do think she told the truth. I feel very strongly about this. I think her story has been just massively, massively, massively distorted by bad actors on the internet. And, you know, the woke mob doesn't just come for the person they're targeting. If you want proof it's a woke mob, then you need to look for evidence that they are coming after everyone who goes against what they are demanding you say. Because the woke mob is all about compelling people to say the words they want them to say. In my opinion, compelling someone to denounce Eliza Blue is no different at all than compelling someone to use certain pronouns. And so I came out in public support of Eliza Blue last week, and you can read about that on my Substack if you're interested. And now guess what? The woke mob is coming for me. That's why they're talking about Joshua being on the channel. They're like, oh my God, she has a psychic on her channel. None of them even know who I am. This is the bizarre thing about a woke cancel mob. None of them even know who I am. None of them knew that I had a psychic on my channel for the last 3 years, and now they're coming after me. And do you know how I know they're coming after me? Because they literally tweeted it. When I wrote an article for my Substack, and you can read it on the Substack if you like, about how Tim Pool got canceled by his own audience. It's a really good article, by the way. I'm very, very proud of this article. I did a stream about it the other day called Tim Pool is a Coward, because he is. And I wrote this article on my Substack, and the person leading this cancel mob retweeted it and said, "Blocking isn't going to help Carolyn Burisenko. She's now added to the case." So they are deliberately coming after me. But guess what? Guess what? What they don't know is that I have been harassed on the internet by deranged psychopaths for the last 2+ years. And those deranged psychopaths have thrown everything they possibly can at me. Everything they can. Oh, Emily saw a video where they were claiming I was a schizo over Eliza Blue. Of course. Of course. But because I've had every single thing thrown at me that these people can possibly throw at me, there is nothing the woke mob can do to me. You know, when I was really going through the shit last year, because last year was really bad, I was harassed almost every single day of my life last year. It was really bad. I contemplated quitting. I contemplated things that were worse than quitting. But there was a time last year where I talked to a medium. It wasn't Joshua. Joshua's not a medium. I cheated on Joshua with another psychic. It's true. And I talked to a medium, and she said it's going to get really bad, but the reason that it's going to get bad is it's because it's going to protect you moving forward. And I didn't understand that at the time, because you don't want to hear that whatever cancellation or harassment you're under is going to get worse, and I was really upset about it. But you know what? She was right, because there is not a single thing, unless they make stuff up, which they've done before. So I wouldn't put it past them. But unless they just fabricate things, which I have no control over the fact that if they're going to fabricate something from nothing, there's nothing that they can hit me with. They have exposed all of the potentially embarrassing things that they could possibly expose about me. And most of them aren't even the truthful version of what happened, but they twist it to make it seem like it's worse than it is. And I've accounted for all of it. And so, for all of you who are like, Carlin, why are you talking about being canceled? Why are you talking about being canceled? Like all last year, guess what? The reason that I was talking about being canceled all last year is because I have now inoculated myself from this bullshit forever. There ain't nothing they can do. And I have the receipts to back everything up, and they can go suck a dick. But that doesn't mean they're not going to try. And this is the last update before we get into the kindergarten or the pre-K article. So do you guys remember? So the stalking horde that is after me, and they're watching right now, everyone wave. This horde of deranged stalkers, one of the primary complaints that these people have against me is that Carlin has sock accounts on Twitter. Carlin has sock accounts that she uses to spy on us on Twitter, because they gossip about me all the time and I want to see what they're saying if they're talking about me. So yeah, I have sock accounts. But guess what, stalkers? So do you. And I've now proven that, because you see this woman right here? I know it's a little bit hard. Her picture's very small. Crispy's Untied Shoelace is what she goes by. Crispy is referencing me. She literally named her account after me. And this woman is so crazy. Let me tell you what a nut job this woman is. This woman is so crazy that she gave herself Lyme disease in order to gain sympathy. She created an entire identity around having Lyme disease. She used to call herself Lyme Lady, because she wants her entire identity to be around Lyme disease, so people have sympathy for her. And when I called her on her bullshit and said, "You're making this situation worse for yourself," she lost her mind and became desperate to convince me that 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 I was incorrect about her Lyme disease. Of course, I'm not going to admit that I'm wrong because I'm not fucking wrong. She gave herself Lyme disease. She's making her Lyme disease work. She's created an entire identity around Lyme disease. If you don't like that, Sarah, you can suck a dick. I don't really care. Anyway, the reason that I know that Sarah has a sock account is because I privated my Twitter account yesterday. And can I tell you guys, having a private Twitter account is like the best thing that's ever happened. There is so much less complaining. There's so much less nonsense. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can still follow me. You can follow me at Dr. Carlin B, but I might keep my Twitter account private forever. I get to monitor who's following me. I get to take a look at their profile. I get to see if they're an unhinged lunatic before I allow them to follow me. It is like a whole new world. This might conceivably turn around my entire Twitter experience. So, man, but she has a sock account, which is following me because she's seeing behind my private paywall. Caught you, bitch. Caught you right in the act. Don't ever complain about my sock accounts again, Sarah. All right. Sarah's Lyme Lady. She likes to go by Lyme Lady because she likes to identify with her disease. All right. Let's jump into it, guys. Mount that like button if you have not already. I saw this story last week. And I mean, there are so many crazy stories coming out of the schools lately. Pre-K teacher attacks idea of childhood innocence and claims toddlers are not too young for a sexuality discussion. All right. Yes, Steve says chronic Lyme, POTS, and EDS, the top conditions for people to fake for attention. It would not surprise me at all if that woman is faking having Lyme disease, if I'm honest. Would not surprise me at all. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you guys. A preschool teacher, an early kindergarten professor, repeatedly attacked the idea of childhood innocence and claimed that early childhood teachers should introduce children to gender ideology at the youngest ages. In our Schools Exposed work that we've been doing, I've been finding introductions to gender ideology as early as kindergarten. If there's anyone watching in the Seattle public school system right now, or you know anyone in the Seattle public school system, the Seattle public school system has a whole website where one of their health teachers, who is very flamboyantly, LGBTQ plus IA, like I'm not saying they're an activist. They're an activist. They have a whole series of videos of this guy reading gender ideology books at the different grade levels, and they start in kindergarten. Willie Villapando, there we go, works at Santa Ana College in California, where he teaches early childhood development. He also indicated on his Instagram that he is a pre-K educator. Oh, great. Yes, exactly. His name is Willie. There are no mistakes in the universe, guys. There really aren't. But what I want people to note is he's not just teaching kids himself. He's teaching the future educators of children. Fox News found documentation that Villapando worked in the Rialto Unified School District Pre-K division from 2016 through at least 2021, the latest state California updated teacher records. It was unclear whether Villapando continued to work at the district for the 2022-2023 academic year, and they're respecting the pronouns, refused to respond. When Fox News reached out to Villapando's Rialto district email address, it was not returned to sender. What that means is that the email address is still active. In 2020, Villapando called the idea of childhood innocence an example of mythology. And you can see he's doing this on his Instagram. This is why, guys, if you have kids, whether they're in public school, private school, charter school, unless you are homeschooling your children, you need to make sure to look up the social media of the teachers teaching your kids. I don't care if they're in pre-K. And you're like, what could possibly go wrong in pre-K? Well, we're seeing what could possibly go wrong in pre-K right now. There is a common mythology that children live in this world of pure innocence, and that by introducing or exposing them to the real world, adults are somehow shattering this illusion for them. Therefore, there is a banning of topics and issues that children should not be exposed to, as if they are not experiencing them already. Well, I'm pretty sure that in pre K, they aren't experiencing sex already, but maybe that's just me. And on another occasion, he said, I'm tired of the childhood innocence argument. Stop blaming a phenomenon that doesn't exist. Now, pro tip, if you ever have someone like this that teaches your kids, maybe just a little extra caution. If you have someone with pink or purple hair that's teaching your kids, if you have someone that's wearing rainbow shit all the time teaching your kids, listen, there's nothing wrong with wearing rainbows, okay? There's not. But it's an indicator. It's an indicator that there might be something more going on. He went on to attack the idea that children shouldn't be exposed to sexuality, claiming it is such a very white, Christian, upper class, cisgender, and heterocentric view. Not talking about queerness in the classroom is not letting children be children. It's telling those people they do not deserve to exist, he said in September 21. Kids are never too young. Let's work to deconstruct some of our own biases. Adults incorrectly link discussions on sexuality and gender as equating to discussions about sex, the early childhood educator said. The district Santa Ana College, where the teacher works, told Fox News that they do not condone any form of attack on childhood innocence. Our community college courses in child development and education studies do not address or teach gender studies. Well, little do they know. He said in a 2020 podcast of Rainbow Parenting, Jesus Christ, that we have so many people who tell us that this is inappropriate stuff we can talk about. And I'm like, hey, no, we can't talk about this. Listen, as a side note, guys, like when you find, if you get an inkling that your kid's teacher is an activist, just search around YouTube for them. If your kid's teacher has a podcast or has been on any podcasts, make sure you listen to them. I know it's extra time out of your day, but you would not believe the amount of shit I have found just by searching YouTube for a teacher's name. And all of a sudden, you have them on all these shows talking about how they're teaching kids to be non binary. And you wouldn't have known if you hadn't searched YouTube for their name. The teacher went on to say that if parents don't have the conversations with kids, it was up to teachers to foster the classroom environment that may make others uncomfortable. They think they own your children. Children who are exposed to environments with more fluid understandings of gender are more likely to understand that gender is fluid. They want to make your kids non-binary, guys. Like I've been teaching this to people for a while. My regulars will understand this, but I know I have some new people here today. The goal with the gender stuff is not to make your kids trans. It is to make everyone non-binary. They want to liberate people from gender. They want to abolish gender. They want to eliminate, revolutionize the gender binary. They want to get rid of men and women and have everyone be non-binary. That's why you're seeing all these he, they, she, they pronouns where they're going by both she and they because they're keeping a foot in the non-binary. I know that sounds weird for people who haven't followed this stuff along, but we watch this stuff all the time. We see it all the time on Socialism Saturday, where the real socialists, the farthest of the far left, they are usually non binary because the goal is to eliminate the gender binary entirely. And when they're talking about trans, they don't mean transition, they mean transform, which is fundamentally different. And these are things that people need to be aware of. He added that educators should talk to little kids about queerness, even if parents have avoided the topic. Look at that. So, anytime you see a teacher wearing a social justice t shirt, you know that's someone that you need to look into. Parents haven't already had conversations about these things with their kids. That kids don't know that they might be intersex, they might be agender or non binary. And really, kids have a right to see themselves in our classrooms. It's okay to just forget about them or push them out just because it might make us uncomfortable or make others uncomfortable. According to Villapando, talking to children about gender includes telling them that it is a social construct. This goes alongside teaching children to ask others for pronouns. Trust me when I say children get this so much faster than adults give them credit for. Let kids practice with you, he says. Vilipando's social media accounts went dark after Fox News Digital reached out for comment. Oh, isn't that fun? And this is why, guys, screenshot everything. If you find someone on video, download the video. Don't assume it's always going to be there. Children are exploring and understanding gender dissociation before they say their first words. Around 3 to 4 months old, infants show a sex and gender preference in who they look at. At 3 years old, a child can label their perceived gender identity, he said. By 4 years old, children have a stable sense of their gender identity and assumptions and beliefs of what they can and cannot do based on their gender. Other teachers in California have raised the topic of gender ideology in classroom. A California teacher named Olivia Garrison bragged about helping students hide their social transitions from their parents. Isn't that nice of them? Fox News Digital found that Garrison, a ninth grade history teacher, worked at Del Oro High School, located in Kern High School District, the Kern High School District. See, again, if your kid's teacher looks like this, just be suspicious. That's all. Social transitioning is the first step for transgender children. It entails adopting new names, pronouns, changing their clothing, and getting haircuts to match a preferred gender expression. By the way, make sure you know what the official school policy is on gender, because a lot of schools now are quietly writing into their policy manuals that children can change their gender, they can change their pronouns, they can change their name, and they can do all of that without the school notifying the parents. Make sure you understand what your kid's school's policy is. Look in the manual. If the manual doesn't say anything, call the school and ask them. The New York Times reported Olivia Garrison, a history teacher in Bakersfield, California, who is non binary. And by the way, okay, I don't mean to sound like a bigot, but if your kid's teacher is non binary, you need to be suspicious. I'm sorry. I know there are some people who genuinely feel they're non-binary and it's just for them and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I get that. I have some non-binary people in my community. I don't mean any offense when I say this, but like the vast majority of non-binary people are far left progressives who are deeply integrated into social justice, and they should not be trusted to teach your kids because in all likelihood, they are teaching your kids nonsense. I'm not saying that's universally true. I'm just saying it's a really high percentage. And it sucks. It sucks for normal trans people. It sucks for normal non binary people. I'm not one of those people who say these things don't exist, okay? I think people should be able to identify however they want to identify. If an adult wants to identify as they and dress androgynous and be non-binary, it is none of my effing business. The only thing that I care about is adults who are inserting themselves into the education of children in order to force a political ideology on them and socially transition them to be non-binary without their parents knowing. I'm just saying, be suspicious. Keep an eye out. My job, which is a public service, is here to protect kids. Sometimes they need protection from their own parents, Garrison told the Times. Sometimes they need protection from their own parents. I read that really quick, and so it might seem like I glossed over it. This non-binary teacher is saying sometimes your kids need protection from their own parents. Another teacher in the Sacramento City Unified District, Danita, recommended using the fucking gender unicorn. The gender unicorn is back. We have seen the gender unicorn 86,000 times. If you see the gender unicorn, you run. Also, the genderbread man. There's a gingerbread man that they call the genderbread man that's exactly the same thing as the gender unicorn. It's just a gingerbread man instead of a unicorn. And by the way, I am still creeped out. I know this is a DNA thing, but this looks like a piece of candy on this unicorn's crotch. I know it's a DNA. Someone's going to say it's a freaking helix DNA. Okay, fine. It looks like a piece of candy on the unicorn's non-binary crotch. They did. They ruined the unicorn. These people ruin everything. Now, early childhood is 0 to 8 years old. Why, pop quiz in the chat, is 0 to 8 years old the magic span of years? I've talked about this a lot. I want to see if you guys are paying attention. Why is 0 to 8 years old the magical span of years that these people are targeting? There is a reason for it. God, butterscotch is delicious, isn't it? I love butterscotch. I know it's like an old person thing, but my grandmother got me addicted to butterscotch when I was like a kid. Yes. Exactly, exactly. In anything you learn before the age of 8 is pretty much cemented in your brain because we take in our brain's fastest development comes when we are 0 to 8 years old. And this is why in foreign countries, they start keep teaching kids English like when they're in elementary school because it's going to be much easier for them to learn English if they start learning it like really, really young. Anything that you teach your kids before 8 years old is going to be cemented in their brain and it is going to be really, 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 really difficult to change it. And that's good to keep in mind too for like anything. If you want your kids to learn a language, you start teaching it to them early. They will learn it. My husband started learning English when I think he was like 7 years old or something like that. They will learn it. But you gotta like teach them all the good stuff earlier, essentially. Don't teach them this fucking unicorn shit. Teach them all the good stuff. So now early childhood is 0 to 8 years old. So that's kind of like from preschool to the 3rd grade. This, by the way, is also why DeSantis is targeting 3rd grade as like, you will not teach this woke shit before like 4th grade or so. You know what butterscotch I like the best? The pudding. I love butterscotch pudding. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. God, now I want butterscotch pudding. God damn you guys. And the focus of this workshop is to provide you with positive strategies to support transgender and gender nonconforming children. I've done research. I just got my doctorate degree. Children are not too young at 5 years old. Children understand gender as early as 3 years old. Jen says, I went to public school in Sacramento, Elk Grove School District, but that was a different time in the mid to late 80s and up to the mid 90s. Well, this stuff wasn't being taught in school then, Jen, so you missed it. You missed it. Yeah. Yeah, hang on. Yes. This is good too, Scott. I co-sign this. Yes. Yes, anything pudding is good. God damn, now we all want butterscotch pudding. See what you did? See what you did? I had no idea there was an oatmeal butterscotch cookie. Oh my god. Fish ad, you gotta get us a recipe. This has turned into like the most weird experience where we're talking about like butterscotch pudding in the chat, but we're actually talking about crazy woke shit in the schools. This is why my chat is the best. Mount that like button if you think my chat is the best. Sky Tooley. Oh god, another god damn it. Why do all these teachers look crazy? Sky Tooley, I'm going to bet this person's non-binary, a teacher at Saturn Street Elementary located in the Los Angeles Unified School District, discussed on TikTok rather, using a gender fluid stuffed animal to teach pronouns and being non-binary. Gender fluidity refers to change over time in a person's gender expression, gender identity, or both. This is Llama Unicorn. I thought it was so cute to let my kids name the llama unicorn. It was a mistake. So this little llama is gender fluid. We'll be practicing pronouns with this little llama, Tooley said. Children are very much ready for these topics and are way more accepting than adults when it comes to gender. Gender assumptions, pronouns, all those things, and it is child development appropriate and age appropriate. Sin is a bad influence on this chat. Joshua, side note, Joshua and I were once having an argument, and I don't even remember what it was. It was about drama. It was about like internet drama or something. And I basically said, I was like, Joshua, Sin agrees with me. And Joshua was like, Sin is up to no good. She's a Leo. She likes all this gossipy stuff. You can't listen to Sin on this. Oh, God. Sin has a reputation. Children are very much ready for these topics. We already read that. Tooley provided another example of a stuffed animal that had they them pronouns. I started talking to students about Norbert the narwhal, who uses they them pronouns, and we practice making mistakes with pronouns and correcting them. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? So, guys, the moral of this segment is that you need to make sure you are searching your teacher's social media or your kid's teacher's social media. It's really, really important. Make sure, like, if you find nothing on their social media, fine. And by the way, if you're going to follow your kid's social media, don't use your real name because you don't want them to be able to know who you are. You want to go, you want to go covert. You want to make sure they don't know, they can't block you, they can't plan around parents following them. If there's nothing on their social media, then no harm, no foul. But if there's something, then you're going to be happy you looked. And that's why Thomas Massey reintroducing a bill to terminate the Department of Education. I would like to terminate many federal agencies, the IRS, the FBI, the CIA. But if I had my way, getting rid of the Department of Education is one of the most impactful things that we can do to, quote unquote, save education in this country. I think it's a good thing. Now, this is going to go nowhere. I don't want to get everyone's hopes up. This is purely a symbolic act. This is as symbolic as the GOP voting in the House to abolish the IRS. It ain't never going to go anywhere. It ain't never going to get through the Senate. It ain't never going to get signed by Joe Biden. But as a symbolic act, I'm in favor. Let's read. Republican, well, he's really a libertarian. Thomas Massey's a libertarian. Libertarian Kentucky representative, technically Republican, Thomas Massey has reintroduced H.R. 899 for the 118th Congress, which seeks to eliminate the U.S. Department of Education. I have introduced a bill to terminate the Department of Education. There is no constitutional authority for this federal bureaucracy to exist. Massey previously introduced H.R. 899 during the 117th Congress in 2021. The bill ran a single sentence: the Department of Education will terminate on December 31st, 2022. Unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. should not be in charge of our children's intellectual and moral development. Massey said in a press release for the bill's introduction in 2021, states and local communities are best positioned to shape curricula that meets the needs of their students. Schools should be accountable. Parents have a right to choose the most appropriate educational opportunity for their children, including homeschool, public school, or private school. Massey also introduced H.R. 899 in February 2017 on the same day that Betsy DeVos was scheduled to be confirmed. Neither Congress nor the president, through his appointees, has the constitutional authority to dictate what our children must learn. Andy Biggs, Lauren Boebert, Dan Bishop, and Chip Roy are also among the co-sponsors. Man, Lauren Boebert is turning into like my favorite person in all of Congress. Like I was last year, like I feel like Lauren got lost last year in the excitement and quite frankly chaos that is Marjorie Taylor Greene. I feel like Lauren Boebert has always been overshadowed. But then Lauren got her big break. She got her big chance with the whole House Speaker debacle in which Lauren Boebert was like, F you, Kevin McCarthy, I'm not voting for you. And I feel like Lauren Boebert is coming out of her shell. She almost lost her election. She won her election by like 87 votes or something crazy like that. And I feel like now Lauren Boebert is coming out of her shell with a vengeance. And she's like, I'm not going to get that close to losing again. And she's really showing up. Yes, she's also hot. Okay, I can say it. She is also hot. And she carries a gun, which I like. I don't know. I like that she's kind of like a badass bitch. I really, really do. I so enjoy her. Jen, thank you so much for the super chats. I know the McMartin trial ended up being a satanic panic hoax. However, back to today, the continued use of puppets and dolls to communicate with kids on sensitive topics, such as gender and sexuality, creeps me out. I mean, listen, I agree, Jen. And I guess here's my rule of thumb: if you need a doll to communicate about gender and sexuality to keep the lesson age appropriate, you probably shouldn't be teaching the child about gender and sexuality anyway. Like, it's probably not age appropriate if you need a stuffed animal in order to communicate a lesson. I don't think I'm saying too much. I want to see a cage match between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, or like a charity boxing match. That'd be great. You know it would be great, Steve. And yes, I agree. Boebert greater than Marjorie Taylor Greene. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, just as a reminder, again, if you missed the introduction I gave at Schools Exposed, I'm hoping to get the Schools Exposed classroom up next week. I do apologize for the delay for people who crowdfunded this project for me last year. I really do appreciate it. I've been working hard trying to get the course room up and running. And as you can see, my voice is already starting to fail me on this stream. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it is starting to go. I've had a little trouble recording as much as I need to in order to be able to make the on-demand classroom because I got sick a couple weeks ago and it's still kind of plaguing me. I bet it's COVID. It must be effing COVID. I have like long COVID or something. But we will be getting up and running with Schools Exposed. If you want more information about that, find that at schoolsexposed.com. I'm really excited about it. And I'm going to teach you how to do all this stuff that Fox News is doing to expose the schools. Because what happens? What happens when we create an army of parents that are doing this thing? Then the schools can't hide anything. We just need an army of parents in order to be able to do it. I also want to let you guys know that Spy Stream is coming up. Spy Stream is coming up on Thursday. We are getting started at 3:30 p.m. I will be infiltrating a live, private, uber, 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 uber woke. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to announce it beforehand because last time I announced the training I was infiltrating beforehand, we almost got kicked out. Luckily, I had a backup plan, and so it all went fine. But we are going to be watching a live training about teaching kids about gender in K through 5 on Thursday, and they ain't going to know it's coming. Too bad, so sad. I'm streaming it live on my channel. We're getting started about 3:30, I believe, in the afternoon. Whenever, yes, it does say 3:30 on Thursday. So you can come and watch this with me, and bring your popcorn because I cannot express how woke this organization is that we're going to be watching on Thursday. I've never seen anything like this. So it's going to be a goodie, guys. I promise. I had to pay money to get into this and everything. It's going to be great. All right. Please mount that like button if you have not already. I want to now turn my attention to Eli's article. Eli is a young man who went to Vermont Academy, and he wrote about his experience basically getting kicked out because they didn't like some of his views. And I've been meaning to cover this story for a while. It is a little bit longer, but we're going to read it and we're going to learn about Eli's experience. And I apologize to Eli for not covering it sooner. It just kept getting pushed back, pushed back, pushed back, pushed back, pushed back. And so now we're doing it today. So let's see what happened at Vermont Academy. He titled it, "They Searched My Computer Over False Allegations. My Experience with Vermont Academy's Woke Partisan Abuse. False accusations, invasion of my personal property, defense of pedophiles, penalizing contrary opinions, and dismissal without due process. All practices of this elite New England prep school." And let this be a lesson, guys. Let it be a lesson that private schools are not safe. If your kids go to private schools, I'm sure they're wonderful, but sometimes private schools are even more woke than the public schools. It was Monday morning. I was talking to my counselor about break plans. She received a message, then told me I abruptly had to go to the dean's office. When I arrived, the dean ordered me to get out my phone and laptop. He asked me outrageous and intimidating questions about what was on them. Then he made me write down my passwords to my computer, phone, and social media accounts. In a separate room, the IT department searched my computer's files, search history, and social media accounts without a warrant or consent from my parents. All they found were memes and ideas the school found unacceptable. Oh, hey, Kevin from the internet. It's good to see you, my friend. Within a few days, they kicked me out. Since it was a boarding school, they flew me nearly 3,000 miles home. What could have prompted this reaction? Surely I must have been a terribly misbehaved student. This is far from the case. My background. Where do I begin? My name is Eli. I'm from the Bay Area. I came from a dysfunctional LGBT family and have multiple mental health diagnoses. At the time, my family was in a chaotic state. We all decided I would be better off if I tried boarding school. The head of admissions for Vermont Academy was touring my area. We met at a Middle Eastern cafe. After a roughly 30 to 40-minute interview, he told me I was accepted at the school. They told me that I would be a welcome fit, a wildcat, their mascot, and I would be told if there were any issues, it like aged like, and I would be told if there was any issues. It all aged like spoiled milk. My 5 months at Vermont Academy. I started going to Vermont Academy in September of 2017. I excelled at my classes. My GPA was 3.8. I won a Scholar of the Month award for October. I was also in a sports team. Although I was not the best at the sport, the team liked me, even sent me a nice card after I left. At the time, my family thought I was in some kind of utopia. In October, someone sprayed a swastika on one of the dorms. To inform the students of this, the school president presented a large swastika in a community meeting. I was bewildered that my school would do this. I pulled out my phone and took a quick photo. Someone above me interpreted this the wrong way. A few hours later, the dean abruptly pulled me from my advisory meeting. He told me, "I need to see your phone." I asked why, and he refused to answer. He told me there is no privacy at the school and they can look through all our chats and files. I thought he was bluffing at first. He finally told me that I was accused of taking inappropriate pictures. I showed him the photo from my phone's gallery and was cleared of any infraction for the time. I was unnerved that the staff would boast about their intrusive policies. And you can see there is the offending symbol. Timeline. Fast forward to January of 2018. The same pattern continued. I did well in classes, not so well in sports, and had a few friends. At this time, I was no longer trying Vermont Academy, but planning on graduating in a few years. Like many of us who went to high school, I was in conflict with another student. He and I would annoy each other in person. Reading cultural and political issues, I took it to Instagram, which was a blunder since social media is significantly riskier. One weekend, my 15-year-old self foolishly sent him an edgy joke. The joke was along the lines of, "Abortion is a difficult topic for me. I support killing, but I'm against giving women a choice." That was a bad joke, but he's 15 years old. Bad joke though, Eli. The point of the joke is to touch on a sensitive issue and say I am a bad person, a common theme in dark jokes. I understand why it was unacceptable in their perspective. I never shared posts like that since then. Many months later, a young woman asked me about what jokes got me in trouble. When I mentioned the joke without even trying to tell it, she burst into laughter. Others had the same reaction. Why should their perception of the joke be less valid than Vermont Academy's? Why should online jokes be treated more severe than actual bullying, which the school is known to tolerate? This will be covered later. January 22nd, 2018. The next Monday, January 22nd, 2018, is when it all broke down. I woke up and planned to meet with my school nurse to discuss break plans. In the meeting, she interjected and told me I had to leave for a standards meeting with the dean and advisor. She mentioned it was about acceptable use policy. Her tone was grim, as if she knew my fate. We walked to the dean's office, and I dreaded the walk. When I walked in, the dean looked like he had a long day ahead of us. I told him I was feeling stressed out. He replied, "I would be stressed out if I were you." He started by asking about the Instagram post and situation. I naively thought he was going to hear me out and give me a platform to explain my side. When I tried explaining from my side, he told me I was lying. He claimed he had screenshots that I did wrong without showing me or even describing them. When I asked him why he had to talk in such an intimidating way, he told me it's because it's his job and he would get fired for talking calmly. His gist was that his methods are there to keep the students and the community safe. My advisor admitted to me he didn't agree with his methods because they were too harsh. This means that intimidating and threatening students is part of the dean's job description. It was a safe space reliant on intimidation against students who don't fit the standard. He told me to hand him my computer and phone, write down my passwords for both my devices and social media accounts. When he previously told me that he had the ability to search students' devices, he was not bluffing. Before the search occurred, the dean made me answer several bizarre questions. His first question was, "Is there porn on this computer?" There was none. I answered no. His second question was absurd. "Is there abortion footage on your computer?" I answered no again. His last question was the most memorable and frightening. "Is there extremist content?" he then asked. "What?" I replied. He clarified, like KKK propaganda? I answered no and said there would be consequences for that false accusation. They took this as backtalk. I was shocked that this would ever happen so abruptly. It is unusual to be a welcome student for months and then to be accused of extremism with absolutely no evidence. The administration could have informed me of the allegations, or they could have dismissed them because they had no credibility. Instead, they treated me like a terrorist under their authority. With a threatening look on his face, he told me I better not be lying. He assured there would be consequences for doing so. I was not lying, while the other student was. As far as I heard, he received no consequences. The dean told me to stay in my room while he brought my computer to the IT department upstairs. They searched my computer's documents, photos, search history, and social media accounts while I was held in the dean's office. The investigation happened in a separate room, so I couldn't know exactly what the IT members were looking through. This is a clear violation of privacy rights for both students and parents. The invasive speech practice by itself is something people should have a right to know about. The dean could see that this made me feel uneasy and anxious. A few moments later, he showed signs of humanity. He told me to take a deep breath when I got tense. Later on, he advised me to go to athletics because it would help me feel better. I brought up the moment a week ago in which he told me I'm a valued member of the community. I asked him if that was still true, and he told me, "You are." Despite the invasive search, it is clear his first intention was not to kick me out. At the end of the search, they told me the worst thing they found was images like memes and with different political views, nothing close to grotesque material or extremist content. In an email to my family, he wrote, "We get his computer and find several strong right wing information and other quotes and pictures that have been downloaded that people would feel are offensive. Eli meets Dean of Students and Head of Health Services and is reluctant to fully share his social media tags, seems defensive and concerned about information on his computer, and says we are conducting a witch hunt." Well, they kind of were. It's a private school. Private schools play by different rules. This is the danger in assuming that private schools are going to be better than public schools because private schools play by completely different rules. Red sings the blues. I owe you an email. Thank you for the super chat. There are stats saying the kids are below reading levels and math scores, but they are learning this. Donation to you can't wait to have you had that collab. Yes, yes, yes. I know. I am the worst emailer in the history of emailers, but we will make it happen. Red sings the blues. I promise, and I appreciate the super chat. During the meeting, Eli is not able to handle his thoughts with the process and continues to go back to his feelings of what is right. So he's basically saying that like Eli isn't allowed to feel like consider fairness and justice. We get his computer and find several strong right wing information with other quotes and pictures that have been downloaded that people would feel are offensive. We explain to Eli that he needs to not talk any further to others about the incident or continue to express himself in ways that others would see as uncomfortable. Well, that's nice of them. Aside from the terrible grammar of several strong right wing information, they penalized me because people could find some of the images offensive. There was no screenshots or examples of images. From what I remember, the worst I had were memes and conservative bumper stickers that I took photos of. That means that not only can Vermont Academy search a student's stuff, they will report the student for having alleged wrongthink as justification for the invasive searches. And you can see here's a photo. I am a liberal worst nightmare, a well armed American white male. After the searches were done, the administration told me I could not tell anyone. As a 15-year-old with mental disorders, I had no idea how to handle this. I had no counselors available, and I felt scared telling my family about this. I lacked the self restraint that adults should have. So I vented to my buddies about it as well as a few other staff members. When I found the student who falsely accused me in the dining hall, I calmly asked him what was going on. He told me to leave, which I did immediately. The administration falsely reported that I was stalking him. The staff told me to cease talking about the issue. I complied. My advisor told me that she thought it would be okay and they wanted me there. the dean told me that he was going to make sure every controversial image was gone from my computer next week. This implied there would be a next week. A few days later, it was my last day at the school. Despite the whole situation, this was my most calm day of the week. It was one of my favorite days at Vermont Academy. I was pulled from my morning chemistry class early in the day by the dean and school nurse. They walked me to the health center. I asked, did something come up? They reluctantly implied so. Once we reached the top of the building, they explained in the most polite terms. They told me that the school was not my fit and that I was to leave. The incident they cited for dismissal was that I talked about the incident and they lacked the resources to support my mental health. Instead of responding negatively, I quipped that it was my then roommate would like his single room. The dean put his head down in regret about their decision. He felt regretful and asked me if I wanted anything. I said sure jokingly, suggested donuts. He was known to provide donuts to well-behaved students. Surely enough, they ordered donuts for me and the several staff who visited to say goodbye. I'm not sure if most dismissals have birthday-like ceremonies. It is almost as if this was a poor idea, and I did not want me to leave with a bitter view of them. It was also the first and only time I met with the headmaster. The roughly 10-minute meeting was rather tranquil. She tried to reassure me my life would not be ruined, that Vermont Academy was not my fit, and that I had a decent future ahead. Things they would not say to someone whom they thought credibly was a threat to the community. At the end, she asked if she could get a hug, and I said yes. Had I known she dismissed me over false allegations, I would have been grossed out. This was an unusually tender treatment for a future persona non grata. The staff let me say goodbye to several friends, whom I would never see in my life again. My advisor and dean helped me pack and drove me to the airport. We ate at Boston Logan International Airport and had our last conversation. At the burger place, I offered to split the bill and pay for my own meal. The dean showed his last kindness and declined my offer. He felt an obligation to pay for a dismissed student's meal. At the airport, a member of my family arrived. They made her fly all the way from California to pick me up within a few hours' notice. This is inconvenient and inhumane. At this moment, I knew I had a longer road ahead of me. This is crazy. This is legitimately crazy. Phone call with the headmaster. When I arrived back in California, I had to deal with the falling out among my family. They'd heard a bunch of rumors about me and were in shock that I got kicked out of what they perceived as was Hogwarts. My family troubles only worsened. I heard my parents arguing on the phone about what had happened and blaming each other. Some family members defended the school against me, even after knowing the accusations were false. I later had a phone call with the headmaster, who is still the headmaster as of 2023. It lasted 22 minutes, yet I remember a lot of it. Her tone was far harsher than the meeting on my last day. The gist was that the reason I had to leave was based on complaints from students and parents. In actuality, it was the one student who reported me along with his parents. She brought up several outrageous, baseless accusations from the students. They included being a hateful extremist to watching porn in class. I found out that they quietly admitted the allegations were false to my parents months later and never raised them again. When I pushed back on the extremist allegations, she added that the alleged left-wing extremist would also be punished. Her point was that the school is not only liberal grounds. However, punishing students for having alleged views is wrong, regardless of the evidence clearly shows that the school had a political bias. In this case, they knew nothing about my politics, they simply assumed. Her main point, as I recall verbatim, was, "We just couldn't have you here." Aside from this being blunt and cold, it was false. In the week prior to the incident, the dean told me I was a proud member of their community. During the incident, he told me he would help me clear my computer of memes and contrary politics, implying I would still be there. After the incident, both students and staff reached out to me. Either way, I shouldn't take the phrase personally, since every other well liked staff also left shortly after. I made two mistakes on that call that recommend one never make in these situations. I apologized. Never, ever, ever apologize. Never apologize when you do something wrong. The woke always want to make you feel guilty when you don't do anything wrong. Never, ever, ever apologize if you haven't done anything that you need to apologize for. Even if you feel guilty, even if you're like, should I really have done that thing? Never apologize, because remember, it's not about the apology, it's only about power. The headmaster told me that the joke I sent was horrible. I said I agree and I have apologized for it. Hearing this, she doubled down and said something along the lines of, I'm sure you were sorry, or you better be. She phrased it like I had committed a heinous crime. My confession of guilt let her feel confident she made the right choice. Instead, I should have refused to apologize. I would have pointed out that there were active students who participated in much more harmful activities, such as physical fighting, fat shaming, actual misogyny, and other forms of bullying. She should only apologize to people you care about, you should only apologize to people you care about, or in times you are truly wrong. Never apologize to mobs or institutions. Number 2, I failed to record the call. Okay, so fun fact, I met Eli because he saw someone reading my book on a plane and he had read it previously, and they bonded over the fact that they had both read my book. So I have to say, bravo, Eli, because you definitely learned from my book. I failed to record the call. On the call, the headmaster said many incriminating things. She repeatedly cited false allegations such as porn and extremism. This is because she was taking claims from other students like they were true. However, none of this is as outrageous to the climate as when she used the N word. I am not making any of this up. When reading the list of rumors, she said that I upset students by talking about the N word. The context was in that class, a set of students talked about the country Niger. I'm talking about the country. I'm not using the word. And why it was important to pronounce it correctly. Of course, lying bullies leave out the important context. The headmaster spoke down to me along the lines of, you were talking about the word, uses the actual slur, and you made students uncomfortable. We do not tolerate this. I could not believe this happened. I never said, nor was ever accused of saying the word. It was the headmaster who said it. That's the irony. Aside from the fact that none of the students involved nor the headmaster were black. Just imagine the principal of a school using a slur to tell a student they cannot talk about the slur. This would feel like a South Park skit. Had I recorded and shared this, people would be outraged. No headmaster should be able to get away with words that don't belong to them or that students would be punished for. He's not wrong about that. A few months after the call, she wrote me a letter. It had to be edited because the first draft included some false and disproven allegations. The letter was full of lip service and synthetic hope for me. It also included what the administration claimed got me kicked out. Instead of apologizing for believing false allegations, she doubled down on them. She blatantly took sides in the letter by accusing me of making other students uncomfortable. Her implication was that I was a threat to the community, despite it only being one of two students who had complained. This is what happens when institutions define who their community is. It means whoever is closest in influence to the administration or has the most money. Honest people should not let institutions define who the community should be. In one of the complaints about my social media behaviors, which was left in the first draft, she wrote, "You seem to suggest that you approved of violence when you said 'burn him' about a pedophilic gymnastics doctor." The comment was over convicted sexual offender Larry Nasser. It was a hyperbolic language regarding a high profile case of a rather vile criminal. Since there was no context in the letter and I had no memory of making the comment, I imagine it was referring to the judge who went off on him verbally. Regardless, when she cited this as evidence of my conduct, it showed the institution has sympathy for pedophiles and abusers. The letter ended with, "Please stay in touch with me as you continue with your school plans and towards a program that will help you both academically and in your social and emotional growth and well being." This part bewildered me. How often do principals ask dismissed students to write them back like grandchildren to grandparents? Regardless, I was not allowed to see the letter until over a year and a half later. By then, I had other struggles to deal with. The letter and phone call were the only communications I was involved with. The rest was strictly between the headmaster and my parents. I only had access to a few of the emails. One stood out. In it, the headmaster listed my behaviors that they treated as red flags, half of which were false allegations. One of them was simply browsing a website on my own time. Eli also browses websites like Breitbart, and pop ups appear that have been viewed as incendiary. Oh, but this school definitely doesn't have political bias at all. Definitely not. I don't remember which website I visited during this time, nor do I remember the incendiary pop ups, which they included no evidence for. Nonetheless, it is disturbing they care what a student researches on a perfectly legal website. You might not be a fan of Breitbart, and neither am I. However, this was clear overreach. How else can people debate ideas if they are punished for simply trying to learn them? Is it right to judge students with no due process for simply having visited a website? Her email ended with the fact that I acknowledged that leaving was the right choice. This is one of the rare things I agreed with the administration on. I was fine with leaving the freezing cold and elitist, preppy environment. I only went because my family wanted me to go. My problem was how they treated me in spite of their usually warm behavior on the 25th. The administration could have let my parents know at least 48 hours in advance instead of telling them to fly over ASAP, dismissed the clearly false allegations, and refunded the tuition. Instead, they made my life unnecessarily difficult for a 15-year-old who was already struggling with mental health and family issues. To summarize what happened since, my parents wanted me in a new school as soon as possible, so I immediately was sent to invasive mental health treatments for over for 2 full months. As of 2023, there are several articles about wilderness therapy on mainstream sources such as USA Today and The Guardian. I turned 16 in treatment, where I got birthday cards from a few staff at the school. After that, I was sent to another boarding school, which was a meme in itself. Both of these experiences are worth a whole separate Substack. During my time in the troubled teen industry, I didn't have much access to technology and the outside world. This diminished my opportunities to advocate for myself. Got his birthday cards. When Vermont Academy finally mailed my stuff back, it was months too late. Some organic produce arrived months after they were ripe. For example, I had to unpack rotten grapefruits that were originally sent from home during the incident months ago. I wish I had taken and kept photos of them. They represent the school in recent years. I rebuilt my life over the next few pre pandemic years. I found work, a new community, and a much more welcoming school to graduate from. The school lets students express their opinions without fear of false accusations and disciplinary action. There was greater diversity of race, sex, national origin, and political opinions. Vermont Academy was overwhelmingly white liberals. Despite being in a Bay Area public school, they treated me like a human, both in deeds and action. Judging from my experience, I am proud to have graduated from a principled public school rather than a corrupt, failing private school. Since the time I returned to social media a year later to now, I checked in with various members of the community, graduating students, and students who left, and former teachers. Some of the active students who were on the same athletics team said they missed me. They even wrote me a card. You got that there? After hearing about the card, I was in denial. I thought they just couldn't have me there and were glad I left. When the card arrived, I was amazed. It meant a lot that it took the time from their lives to send me the card. I messaged the coach and my friends to thank them through text message and Instagram. This was the last time they reached out to me and was a memorable conclusion to that. I just want to note, guys, that if you know someone, even if it's just someone like online or like, that's struggling. I'm thinking of like Eliza Blue in this particular case, or probably Shane Cashman too, to be honest. Like, sending them a note saying you appreciate them is a really good thing. Or if you know someone in real life and you're friends with them, don't underestimate the power of a card or a note or any of those things, because when people are struggling, it really is like those positive messages that give people strength and make them see how loved and valued they are. So just keep that in mind. The rest of my communications with Vermont Academy staff was through online messages. One of the former students, the daughter of staff who visited me on my last day, left the boarding school alongside her father. She told me the decision was amicable and that her father had no issues with the administration. I have a hard time believing that. Others were critical of the school based on their experience. One of my former learning mates and I messaged. He didn't know why I got kicked out, but knew it must have been unjust. He added, the new head of school really ran it to the ground in a casual conversation about why the best staff left. So I was doing an update on the school, and you guys can read that on his Substack. But I just wanted to make people aware of this story. I'm gonna put the link in the chat if you guys want to check it out for yourself and read the rest of it. My voice is just going a little bit, so sadly, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to read the rest of it today. But the reason I wanted to cover this is not only that I think that Eli is a very nice young man, because I have communicated with him for a while now, and I've never seen anything that's out of sorts. I think he's a very nice young man. He's also a really good writer for his age. Like, let's give it up to Eli for documenting his experience, for learning from the experience. One of the things that I love about Eli is that he learned to record it next time and he learned not to apologize. And you know what? He's still very young. He's got his whole life ahead of him. And I'm glad that he's out of school, because I think getting out of school is like the hardest part. But the other lesson I want people to learn from this, again, private schools will not save you. They won't save you. It is easier to get kicked out of a private school over nonsense than it is to get kicked out of a public school. Because if you defy private school rules, then they can just kick you out. They make all the decisions. There's no recourse. It is a private school. So while I know that some people think private schools, charter schools are better than public schools, and sometimes they can be, you have to be very careful with this stuff, because not all private schools are created equal. All right, guys, I'm going to have Eli on the channel sometime in the next couple weeks. We're going to have a great chat. I'm looking forward to all of you getting a chance to meet him. But I got to go for right now. I'm going to go get some dinner with the husband. But I do want to remind everyone that we will be doing Nothing Remotely Controversial at 9:30. Happy Valentine's Day. You get 2 streams today. Guys, take care. Have a great evening. I'll be back in about 3 hours with Joshua, and we're going to have psychic fun time, whether the hater is on Twitter like it or not. All right, guys, take care. See you soon.